morning, my wild and beautiful friends. I'm so glad you're here. It is Sunday morning and I have the day off. In honor of the new year and keeping with resolutions and working on self-care, I thought I'd put on an eye mask and a highly attractive green face mask and get myself in the bathtub. And to take our little bath to the next level, I'm going to share with you guys the easiest bath bomb recipe. These little gems look like geodes. They're full of nourishing bath salts, essential oils. They make your bath that much more relaxing. I can't wait to share it with you. Keep on watching to see how we make them. Alrighty guys, this recipe is so simple with mostly items you can find in your pantry. I've got some baking soda that I've just poured into a large bowl here. Also some citric acid. You can find this in your grocery store or you can buy it in bulk online pretty easily. Also adding some cornstarch. I'm going to start whisking everything together and kind of just breaking up any bits of that citric acid that's clumping so everything mixes really well. Now if you want your bath bomb to have some scent to it, this is where you add in some essential oils. I've got a few different brands here. I've got a couple of my favorites, Arbonne, and then I also have a Happy Hippie blend that I got from our local soap shop, Spirit Goat. Super great shop. It's got a mix of like patchouli and sandalwood and it's super relaxing and a smell I really love. So I'm just going to add a few drops. Little goes a long way. I think I add about 6 drops. Do what works best for you. Play with smells, play with amounts, and get it to where you like it. I think about 6 drops of this oil works for me. We're just going to whisk that in, and now we're going to add some coloring to make this look a little bit more like a stone. So I found these soap dyes online. You can definitely get them at your craft store, but I just wanted to be sure that they were all natural and vegan. You can also use food coloring, so any color you'd like. I went with this black so I could get kind of like a speckled gray look, so it looks more like a rock. I'm just kind of mixing it in, pinching it with my fingers to make sure that color is getting distributed. Once we add some liquid to this, it'll distribute a little bit better as well. So there's a couple different ways and a couple different types of liquid you can add to your bath bomb to bring it together. You can either use water or alcohol. What I've found and what I've read is the benefit to alcohol is it dries a little bit faster. So if you want to get your bath bombs done a little bit more quickly, I would use alcohol. You use about a tablespoon in total. You can either dribble it in or use a spray bottle like I'm using here. The spray bottle kind of distributes it a little bit more evenly, and by whisking it really quickly, you're kind of stopping that reaction of the fizz with the baking soda and the citric acid. And the less you can get it to fizz while you're putting it together, the more fizz you'll have in your bath bomb. So now I'm just going to go in with my hands and I can really feel how it's coming together. I did add about 10 more drops of that black food coloring to get it to look a little bit more gray. And as it starts to come together, it becomes almost like a little bit more fluffy and snowy. And that's how I know I'm getting close. You can, of course, add a little bit more liquid if you need it to stick together, but you essentially just want it to come together and clump like semi-wet sand. And that's how you know you are in bath bomb territory. So just like that, we're looking good. I think we're ready to put them in our molds. So these little bath bomb molds are pretty easy to come by. I actually found it at our local craft store really easily. You can also, of course, get them online. What we're going to do a little differently is we're going to only use half of the mold so we can get that concave geode look. So I've overfilled the mold and now I'm just using the other side of the mold to press in to make kind of a concave shape, if that makes sense. And the idea is to super press this in. You want this to get really, really compact. So once I've used the mold to press it in, I'm going to go in with my fingers. And the lovely thing about these geode molds is they don't need to be perfect. They're supposed to look like nature and look like stone. So just press them in as much as you can. And we've got a little cameo from my lone press-on nail that's still stuck on my thumb. Keeping it classy around here. Now that I've got it pressed in, I'm just popping it out of the mold while it's still a little bit wet, so it'll remove a little bit more easily once they've dried. So I'm just going to continue to do this process with the last of our molds. This recipe makes about 4 halves. You can, of course, double or half the recipe depending on how much you'd like, and I will, of course, link below all the amounts that I used. Once we got all our molds pressed in really tight and released, we're gonna let these guys dry at least for a couple hours. I made these in the afternoon, so I'm just gonna let them dry overnight, and then we'll continue the geode making process in the morning. Okie dokie guys, it's been overnight and our geodes are nice and dry. I'm just going to try to release them. As you can see, even after releasing them when they're wet, they might get a little stuck. So just keep pressing along the edges, tap it until you can pop them out. Some of them will come out more easily than others, but don't be worried. Just keep on squeezing gently and tapping until you get a little bit of a release here. There we go. Then I'm gonna set them back in the mold to finish adding our sea salt and Epsom salt to make it look like a geode. So like I just said, we're going to use some Epsom salt and some rock salt to give it that geode-like texture and color. This is some Epsom salt here. I'm adding about a tablespoon, just spreading it around. And what we're going to do is take some melted coconut oil to get it to stick onto that bath bomb. So I'm try to be as sparing as possible because you don't want your bath to get super slippery, but it does take a decent amount to get it to stick to your bath bomb. So I'm using about a tablespoon. I'm concentrating on the edges here because we're gonna go back in with our rock salt in the middle. So just kind of drizzle that in as best you can until everything's kind of saturated and looking like it's sticking. You can start with less and then as they dry kind of see what needs to be set even more. So once I've got that going, I'm going to work through the rest of these with our Epsom salt and then we'll add our rock salt. Okay, these little guys are looking pretty good, and I've got some rock salt here. You can buy any kind. I found this pink Himalayan and I just love the color. You don't have to dye it and it looks quite natural, and it is quite natural actually. You can also dye your rock salt with any sort of soap dye or food coloring if you want it to be a little bit more vibrant of a color. So we're just piling that into the middle, and we're going to take about a half a tablespoon of that melted coconut oil and just drizzle it all around to set it into that spot. And once everything's cooled down and set, you can go back through and add little bits of coconut oil where it's not sticking right. Aren't these gorgeous? And I'd like to note that as far as rock salt goes and any other ingredient you're using, I would make sure that it's food grade, and that means it'll be good to go down your drain and good, for your body as far as soaking and things like that go. So now the piece de resistance. It took me a while to find this online, but it is a food grade vegan gold luster dust. It's used for cake decorating, but I am going to use it for our bath bombs to add a little bit of shimmer around the edges to make them look even more decadent. And like I was saying just a second ago, it's really important, especially with this glitter, to use a food grade because you can ingest it and it's not going to mess with your drains. So I'm just adding a little dash to a little dish here, and we're going to add a little bit of alcohol to get it to be liquid, and we're going to ever so gently paint the edges of our geodes here, and they are going to look so spectacular. This is a optional step, but I believe it really ups the gorgeousness of these little geode bath bombs. So a little pro tip when you're painting with this shimmer on your geode bath bombs, I would try to kind of dab it instead of brush it. Whoop. Also, this stuff goes everywhere, so be careful. But I'm just going to take this beautiful little geode out of its mold so I can paint it. And instead of brushing it, I'm going to dab it. It lays out the color a little bit better, and then it doesn't rub off your bath bomb as you're getting that gold on there. So just dab it a little bit. If you get some sea salt mixed in, no big deal. And we're going to just go around all the edges of our geodes and let them dry, and they will be ready to enjoy. And there you have it, the most gorgeous little bath bomb. These make beautiful gifts, but for now, let's get in the bathtub. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that you're all staying safe and healthy, and I can't wait to talk to you soon. Cheers!